Marina, thank you. And thank you for inviting me here. It's great to come and talk about the MOOC Understanding Language, which, as we'll go on to see, was used in the B-MELTT project. It's interesting, when I was thinking about what to call this talk, obviously we created our MOOC Understanding Language it ran first in November 2014. And it's had 6 runs, 5 runs since then, so a total of 6 runs. And so we're looking at about what we do next with this course that we've created. And I was trying to think of a title, and I was thinking, okay, embedding, exploiting, extending. I really wish I'd asked Stephen's advice on the title, because I would call it an approach to normalization of a MOOC. And that's what we've been doing. We created this course back in 2014, and since then we've been saying, well, what do we do with it next? And in that context, it's normalization in the sense of what is a MOOC at Southampton? What is a MOOC in modern languages at Southampton? What do we do with it once we've run it, and once it keeps running? What happens next? So that's what I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to talk about the design and why we created that MOOC and some of the elements that came into it, and then briefly about some of the impact, and then really what we're doing next. We're in that stage of, I suppose, excessive dependence and awe and excitement about MOOCs, but it's how do we get on to the next stage of normalising them, and particularly focusing on this one. Okay, so just briefly, Southampton. We got into MOOCs with FutureLearn when FutureLearn started. We've got 19 separate MOOCs. Of those, there's been multiple runs of these courses. More than 200,000 learners, so those are people that have actually shown up and been active, done something on those courses. Range of topics, from web science was our very first one, ocean science, archaeology, history, contract management, and language teaching and learning. The reason we wanted to get involved as an institution in the first place with creating MOOCs was it was a new initiative with FutureLearn for us. We wanted to explore ways of reaching new audiences of learners. So we wanted to go beyond the walls of the University of Southampton, beyond the UK, and to reach new learners. Obviously, we wanted to raise awareness about our teaching and our research. We also wanted to experiment. We'd created lots of different online courses of different kinds. And for us, a massive open online course was a new thing. And we wanted to see how we could take that forward. So we worked with FutureLearn, which, as a couple of speakers have said, is a private company owned by the Open University. There's more than 91 partners now, at least one more. And those partners are mainly universities in the UK and around the world, but also organisations like the British Library, the British Museum, people like that. And there are over 6 million learners on that platform. Okay, so the reason to get involved with a particular platform is for that last point, the reach. So FutureLearn can reach many more people than we can at the University of Southampton. So that's why we wanted to use a platform provider to help us get MOOCs out there. So in modern languages, I'm based in modern languages. We have a strong history of creating online courses. I'm an online course materials developer and have been for some years. We've got an online master's in English language teaching with the British Council, online study skills materials of different kinds, a different kind of MOOC which we offer through Moodle called Get Ready for Southampton for all our international students, and we commercially license study skills materials too. So for us, a MOOC seemed to be a next logical step, just to extend what we were doing. So just to set the scene for understanding language learning and teaching, so this is the name of the MOOC that we started in 2014. It's a collaboration with the British Council. So what that means is the British Council contributed some content on it, they contribute tutors to it, and they support it and promote it. It's a 4-week course. Each week is a different topic: language learning, language teaching, teaching and technology, and then global English as the 4th week. And the idea of it was to give a taste of key concepts in language learning and teaching. And it had a very explicit promotional aim. We wanted to promote our joint online masters in English language teaching. At the time, that course was a closed course with British Council Mexico, and we wanted to expand it to the world. And so we thought, well, a MOOC is the perfect way of doing that. And so that was the ethos behind the creation of the course. So we've had 6 course runs. The most recent was in April 2017. And I've put the kind of headline statistics. Obviously, Stephen's mentioned some of the statistics you get from MOOCs. We've had over 190,000 people sign up for it. So if you like, they've become aware of it, they've signed to do it. More than 85,000 people have done the course over the 6 runs and taken an active part in it. So in that respect, it's easily become the biggest of Southampton's MOOCs in terms of the numbers of people who've signed to do it and then turned up to actually do it. Obviously, we've already mentioned that there are problems with these statistics, so I won't go into any further detail there. So those are the kind of headlines. And we've had over 8,000 expressions of interest in our online master's course. So those are statistics that obviously our senior managers get very excited about. I can tell you more about the detail of that perhaps a bit later. But certainly on the face of it, it seems like a very successful effort. So, talking about the course design, it's a fairly standard kind of FutureLearn look, and so much of the video content, much of the content is delivered through short videos, where you've got, in this case, this is Professor Jennifer Jenkins, who's an expert in English as a lingua franca and global English. So, giving some ideas to talk about, some key ideas, and then that's always presented with a question to discuss, to provoke conversation, discussion around those ideas. That's accompanied by articles which give a more in-depth discussion about points that have been raised perhaps in the videos. This is about task-based learning. And then interactive tasks. So in this case, you've got a sort of example of a picture story you might use in a classroom. And the task was for learners to look at it and say what it is, but then also say how you might use it in the classroom. What would you do with that as a teacher? And then feed that back and then have a discussion on the platform about that. We also had polls, I don't know if you can see that, but successions of statements to decide whether they're true or false. And then you can see the results and see what everybody else is thinking. And the idea, again, is to provoke discussion around the topics that you're covering. One other interactive element which I really loved was we set up a Padlet wall using a free tool called Padlet, and we asked people to share images of their classrooms. So this was in the week where we talked about language teaching, and the idea was obviously that your environment, the environment you have to work in and teach in, influences very much perhaps how you are in the classroom and what you can do. And we wanted our global cohort of learners to share where they taught, and again, to provoke discussion and to get people to understand the different constraints that people have as teachers. So those were the mixture of content elements. We also used what's called a Z-map, an interactive map. Now, this is a tool I like using in all our MOOCs, actually. It's a free tool, and what you do is you simply plot your location, where you are in the world. That's all you do with it. The reason I really like it is because it's an immediate and visual representation of the community of learners on the course. So you plot your location, you can zoom in and see if there's anyone in your hometown and how many people. And it's a very nice and immediate sense that you're not alone when you're learning on the course. You've got all these other people from over the world with you. And so I tend to use those on all the MOOCs that we put forward now. We also had other types of online activities. So back in the day, you'd call this a learning object. This is an interactive online activity, and this kind of activity appears in our online master's course. And so I was keen to put a few of those in to show people what they would experience on our masters. We also had live sessions through YouTube and Google Hangout. Professor Jenkins there again, she loved doing the live sessions. And we did tutor review videos at the end of each week, summarising what had been learnt in the week. And so these were the moments when we made ourselves very obvious to our learners. We said, we are listening to you, here we are. The video tutor reviews are quite ad hoc and rough, they're filmed very quickly. My colleagues will be, for our EMI course, my colleagues will be filming theirs this afternoon and it will go online tomorrow. And then you can answer questions that learners have raised during the course. So it's that sense that it's a live event, that tutors are there and they're listening to the learners. Okay, so that's essentially a quick look at how what the course looks like. So in terms of the course design, content and some of the activities very much reflected topics and material on our online masters, obviously, because that's why we were doing the MOOC. When we created content, obviously it was academic content, but it had to be very approachable. Although we said this is the reason for why we're creating this course, we needed to say to people, we needed to understand that anyone might come and do the course. And so there's this mixture of approachable and academic tone. The steps in it are linear, so you work through it, in a linear way, but also you could go in and just do one, so it's standalone as well. There's an encouragement for interaction and a strong social emphasis on peer learning and teaching. I mentioned the balance between pre-recorded and live elements and that promotional kind of idea throughout. So what happened after we did the first one and as we kept doing it? In terms of, I suppose, marketing, so remember we wanted to promote our course, we had learners from 174 countries, 91% from outside the UK. So that was really great for us, really interesting. We doubled the cohort on our masters and those numbers retained over the next couple of intakes. We achieved a more international spread of students, which was our aim to do so. And we also piloted a link between the free course to the masters via scholarships. And so we offered a small number of scholarships with each run to anyone who completed the course. And so we now have several students, about 6 students studying on our master's course who have come directly through the MOOC. And I spoke to one recently who's working in Russia just to talk about the experience. And they made this comment here. So they felt that the MOOC was like an appetizer course, which was great. So that was what we wanted, the taste of idea, the taste of the masters. And here was someone saying, yes, this was like a small thing, and then I went on to do the bigger thing. Another student in Uruguay did the MOOC. Again, talked about whetting appetites, initiating a reflective journey, and giving that taste of postgraduate study in the field. So this was a person who was thinking about going on to further study, took the MOOC and realised that yes, it was something that was right for them. And so they went on to enrol in the master's programme. And this I think I'm really pleased about. I think that's what we try to do at Southampton with our MOOCs. We try to say this is what it's like to study at university. If you don't want to study any further, fine. But if you do, that you can get a sense of what it's actually like. So just going quickly through this, so about 50% of our sign-ups joined the course. We've got a YouTube channel where we put all our live recorded video content that has a kind of life of its own. There's a huge amount of general user feedback, which talks about how grateful people are to take the free course. Lots of comments along the lines that the course is great, we love it, that kind of thing. But also comments from learners who were teachers saying that it had influenced their practice. So they were trying new things in the classroom, they were interested in new ideas for research, global Englishes and English as a lingua franca was particularly interesting to people. We also found the impact on our own staff was interesting. So the staff that had created content for the MOOC said they had to think about how clearly they communicated their ideas to a more general audience rather than the students they see in front of them, and that all academics should be doing that, so they had to think about that. They enjoyed meeting new learners, so meeting people who were excited about their own subject area and giving that excitement back. And then one interesting comment from one member of staff was that he felt working on the MOOC pedagogy, if you like, changed how he was as a face-to-face teacher. And he began to do that thing of perhaps putting a 5-minute little nugget of input at the beginning and then reflecting on more discussion in the classroom. So I'm rapidly coming to the end as I'm running out of time. Oh, okay, well, I'll relax then. So in terms of moving forward, so going back to what Stephen was saying about normalising the MOOC. So at Southampton, we were at that sense of, we've created this MOOC, yay! Thousands of people have done it, yay! They love it, yay! All the excitement bit. We love MOOCs. What do we do with them next? And so we're in that stage now of, we can't afford to just create high quality courses like that and put them out for free. They need to make sense to us. They need to make sense to our everyday research and teaching. And so we are approaching this normalising stage. So what have we done with understanding language? So I was very interested in what a lot of learners said about wanting to know more about Global Englishes. And so I took this back to the Global Englishes team and said, we can use the MOOC to crowdsource research data. Now, Professor Jenkins, who we saw there, she is conducting a huge international research project into language policies at universities across the world. And so she's doing that anyway. That's her research, that's going forward for the REF in 2021. And so I said to her, well, we can add to it with the MOOC in a very simple way. We can go to all of our international learners and we can crowdsource some data for you on language policy. And she was very excited. How else could she reach all of these people working across the globe? And so that's what we did. We invited people to join a research project. Ahead of the 5th run, I revamped the course and we added an extra week where we talked about the latest research that her team was engaged in. And then we invited people to join the University of Southampton, essentially, and join our research team by giving their experiences about language policy and English language use where they were. And it's been great. I mean, all we did, it was a very, very simple thing. We did a lot of scaffolding, so we told people about our research project, how we'd keep their data safe, all those ethical things you do in research. And then we just did a survey, which we designed to find out about language policy. And we had a huge response. So we had to close the survey after we had more than 1,000 responses because we weren't sure if we could cope with analysing all of the data. So we had a lot of responses, which is great for Jenny's team to analyse for their research project. The other thing that happened was on the step where we put the survey, lots of people put comments along the lines of, thank you so much for inviting my opinions for your research. Thank you so much for letting me take part in your research. We're really interested in knowing the answers. Please tell us. And there was this real sense of community. They'd done the course, they'd done the MOOC, they'd shared their ideas, and we were saying, we want your ideas, they're valuable, join us. And this for me was a wonderful experience. That for me is what teaching and education should be about, bringing people in and that equality of ideas and everyone moving forward. So in terms of that, that's just with understanding language. But that notion of building it into the daily bread, if you like, the everyday research, is something that I'm pushing across all of humanities and pushing across the university as well, for other people to see the value in the MOOCs they've created, to use them in this way. So also in terms of education, so education and teaching. So obviously we've got our new spin-off course, which is on English medium instruction, and that started on Monday. So that, as I say, it's a different MOOC, but it kind of spins off from understanding language. We're reaching new learners, but possibly the same learners, and we're continuing that discussion. And following up from what Marina was saying yesterday, in that particular course, there's lots of discussion about what is communicative competence, what is international, intercultural communicative competence. It's not about brilliantly accurate English, it's about communication. And so if you have a look at that course, I'll be very interested in any feedback you have on that. So we've also used the content from our MOOCs in our face-to-face classes on our Masters Applied Linguistics programs. So yes, it's costly to create content for MOOCs, but you can take out the content, disaggregate it and put it in other places. And crucially, I've found, as someone who works in online and blended learning, MOOCs have been a real inspiration to staff at the university to engage with technology, to think about creating online courses, to think about blending technology into what they do. And that's really, really important in getting people to adopt different practices in technology. Okay, so I am coming to the end now. So for us, it's about making sense of MOOCs. It's no longer about the woo excitement we're creating a MOOC. It's about making sure they fit with our strategy, with what we do every day, which is research and teaching. And that way, they will be more sustainable within the university. So again, referring back to Stephen, you know, I love MOOCs, but we have to normalise them. Otherwise, the university will stop doing them, I think. And so they have to be integrated in this way. So personally, I think they're positive, exciting celebrations of learning and research. They inspire learners about the ideas, the topics you cover, but also about learning. They inspire staff to use technology, but also to rethink teaching, the way they teach and the way they engage students. Simply the process of asking someone to write an article and then think of a really provocative discussion question to engage learners gets them thinking about, do I do that enough in my face-to-face classes? It's a really good way of doing that. There's potential to open it up to research and teaching to a broader audience. Obviously, as we're going to find out from Marina, you can mix open online with closed face-to-face classes very effectively. There's marketing potential. There's a range of platforms available. You've seen a lot of FutureLearn, but there are many other platforms you can use. And once a MOOC is created, it can be rerun many times at low cost, disaggregated and used in very many ways. So really, MOOCs are wonderfully, wonderfully rich for research and teaching, but we do have to realise that richness. We do have to work hard at that. And that is the direction of travel that we're going to be going forward with at Southampton, and certainly in modern languages, I'll be driving that forward. I see them as a kind of, I guess, a Trojan horse for disrupting what people do in their research and teaching every day, and normalising technology and online and blended learning. That's a vision of online and blended learning that I like, and that's where we're going with our MOOCs. At that point, I'll stop. Thank you very much.